pleased to introduce to you Judith Alstader. Judith comes to us with quite a varied background and quite an impressive performance history. She is a concert pianist, a music educator, a lecturer, a recording artist. She has her degrees from Juilliard and her doctorate from Yale University. She has given concerts in Europe, in the Caribbean, in the United States, at Lincoln Center, at Alstader Hall, at Carnegie Hall. She's been on the faculty of Pace University, Five Towns College and Eckerd College in the local area. And in the local area, she has appeared on the historical Oslo series about women composers. And also on Sill, on the Lunchtime musical. She's a regular performer at the Bladen Theater in St. Petersburg. And at the concert, if you're interested, she has an array of CDs which you might be interested to purchase. Judith is going to present to us a much varied program, ranging all the way from the classics through ragtime and popular music and some jazz. So, I'm very pleased to present to you Judith Alstader.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm glad to see such a nice audience here because I'm told that there's a lot going on in Sarasota this afternoon. There always is, but particularly today, so welcome. As John said, the program today is called Classics to Jazz. I always enjoy doing this because I know that there's something for everybody's taste. And I play all the things that I like, starting with Beethoven, ending with Leonard Bernstein. So I think you'll enjoy that too. I'd like to say a few brief words about the pieces and the composers before I start. Well, of course, Beethoven needs a little introduction, one of the great, great masters of the classical era. He was born in Germany in 1770 and died in 1827. And I like to say that Beethoven is one that we love not only because of the great music that he wrote, because of the great spirit that he had. As we know, he was afflicted with the worst possible thing that a musician could be afflicted with, and that's deafness. He started out as a young, budding virtuoso pianist and successful composer, and by the time he was in his late 20s, he started having the intimations of deafness. And by the time he died at 57, he was totally deaf. And for all those years, he had his own sound in his own mind, composing masterpiece after masterpiece. In 1802, when he was born in 77, so you can figure his age out there, he went to a little village outside of Vienna, where he'd settled in Vienna, the great music capital of the world. And he thought maybe the rest and the quiet would help him, but it didn't. And he wrote something called the Heiligenstadt Testament. Perhaps some of you are familiar with that. It was half suicide note, half lament, half letter to his brothers, and it was never mailed. And basically he said if it were not for his art, he would take his own life. And he says, I will take fate by the throat. It will not overcome me. And that spirit is what we love about Beethoven's music. And we hear in the diversity of it, that spirit. You will today in the piece I'm going to play. So Beethoven wrote 9 symphonies, 32 piano sonatas, reams of chamber music, Fidelio, the opera, songs, mass, and wonderful music in all those different arenas. There was a great volatility in his personality. We now learn that maybe one of the problems, you read about the DNA samples from the hair lately, some scientists did, they showed that he had lead poisoning, that is to say heavy metals. Today we know about heavy metals, but he had lead poisoning, which led to many, many problems. So there's a great volatility of anguish and anger and power, alternating with a spirituality, maybe a resignation, and a calm. And in this movement of his great sonata Pathétique, the first movement, we are going to hear a great deal of that. It's written in his favorite, one of his favorite keys, C minor, like the Symphony C minor. C minor has a very great significance for Beethoven. It's a key of tragedy and pathos. So, first piece of Beethoven Pathétique sonata, first movement. Thank you very much. So now, Chopin, I like to tell people, and of course this is not an audience that I have to say, even if you don't like music, you love Chopin, but I do say that for some of my audiences that maybe aren't as artistically and intellectually evolved as you are here in Sarasota, where I love to play and lecture. And by the way, let me say that originally when John and I discussed this program some time ago, we decided I would do my program called Women Composers Romantic to Ragtime. So some of you are expecting that. Maybe we'll ask John if I could do that another time. But it was announced originally like that, so this is a change. Somebody asked me, oh, I thought it was something else. And it is something else. So Chopin, if there's one composer who just took one instrument to his heart and wrote everything he wrote almost for it, it was Chopin. That was the piano. Born in 1810 in Poland, of French-Polish descent. He died in 1849 in Paris, only 39 years. Now, of course, he was already way older than Mozart and Schubert, who died younger than that. He wrote streams of nocturnes, preludes, etudes, ballades, scherzos, preludes, impromptus, mazurkas, polonaises, on and on, piano music. He also wrote some chamber music, and he also wrote concertos, of course, and some beautiful Polish songs, but it was for the piano that he was known. He was known as the poet of the piano. Now, when I do programs on Chopin, I do them and I call them Chopin, poet and patriot of the piano, because although he was poetic, the beautiful melodies and the embroidery around his melodies, which we know instantaneously, this is by Chopin, it's unmistakably Chopin. He also was very dramatic, passionate in some of his music, and he had a great love for his native country. When he left Poland, at about 20 years old, Poland was under the domination of Russia, and the crushing of uprisings and the wars hurt him very much, and he expressed this in his music. He wrote particularly polonaises and mazurkas. The polonaises being the national dance of Poland, along with the mazurka. The polonaise was mostly for the aristocrats. It was a processional, very elegant dance. Mazurkas were more for the people or for the peasants. So we can tell immediately this is by Chopin. And some of his works have become popular songs. This first one, the Etude in E major, you'll recognize as No Other Love. Then I'll be following that with a lovely mazurka. He wrote, each one is a small gem. Some of them were very gay and buoyant. If you remember the Moiseyev dance troupe, if you've seen that, or any other beautiful national dance troupe of Eastern Europe. Some of them are buoyant. You see them in the beautiful costumes. And some of them are very, very melancholy. And then I'll also play the famous C-sharp minor waltz, which everybody loves. Just play that one. down to, from a Chopin waltz to a Strauss waltz, Johann Strauss Jr., the great waltz king of Vienna and the world. And, well, if there's one city that I love, of course, New York is my home and my beloved, yes. The only city. New Yorkers know that. Well, then Vienna is my second favorite city. And I'm sure many of you have been to Vienna, and it's only the city in the world where you can walk on the streets when Mozart and Beethoven and Brahms and Haydn walked on those same streets. And you go up to their apartment and touch the banister that they touched, you know. It's the only place you can do it. So I've been to Vienna 8 times, and I love the music of Johann Strauss Jr. I'm sure you all do, and it's coming to the Christmas and the New Year's time, and we're all going to be hearing the Fledermaus and lots of Strauss waltzes. On January 1st, we have the Wiener Philharmoniker, the Vienna Philharmonic, on public TV, playing from the beautiful Goldene Saal of the Musikverein, with Walter Cronkite accent this year, unfortunately announcing the concert for us. Johann Strauss Jr. was born in 1825 and died in 1899. He was the son of a composer, Johann Strauss Sr., who was also a violinist and a conductor. The son soon outshone the father. By the time he was going strong, he was playing all over Vienna and in other countries of Europe. He went to Russia, and he had written hundreds of waltzes, polkas, quadrilles, and some 16 operettas, the most famous and beloved being the Fledermaus. So this is going to be Voices of Spring, and just to say a word about the Viennese spirit. What makes a Viennese waltz different from another waltz? Every waltz has 3 beats. The Chopin waltz I played, it was bum, 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 in the left hand, right? In a Viennese spirit, there's a little bit of a lift between 2 and 3, so you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you've ever seen the dancers circling around 1, 2, 3? I'm sure you've seen that. If you don't look for it now, you'll find it. So an orchestra that's playing with a true Viennese spirit, just like American jazz. You can play jazz and it's not going to sound like jazz. It has to have that flexibility, that give and take, you know, the syncopation, all that. So this is the beautiful Voices of Spring. I'm not doing the program of Women Composers Romantic to Ragtime, I am going to be playing two compositions by composers who happen to be women. And I like to say that when we stop saying women composers, then we'll have gotten somewhere. Because we don't say, now I'm going to play a program of male composers. Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, Schubert, you know. It's so ghettoized still. And, well, women have made great strides. We almost have a remarkable woman as president this close, but...
And they're now actors, not actresses.
Yes.
They're actors.
So, exactly, yes. So, well, the composer whose name I'm going to say now is probably unknown to you. It was to me. Perhaps some of you who are piano aficionados of the 19th century. I'm not a piano aficionado, obviously, but Teresa Carreño. Does anybody know that name? Okay. Well, maybe if anybody's come to any of my programs where I've done concerts, not lectures, you would know her name. So, Teresa Carreño was born in 1853 in Venezuela, Caracas. She came from a distinguished family of the Bolivars, and she died in New York in 1917. She was a child prodigy, a remarkable prodigy. She traveled with her family all over Europe, and she even played for Abraham Lincoln at the White House as a little girl. She was a dazzling virtuoso, ranked with the highest of the virtuosos in the early part of the late 19th century and early 20th century. In fact, some of the critics would praise her by saying that she played like a man. Pretty good. And she played a lot of very heavy repertoire, you know, Beethoven, Emperor Concerto, things like this, you know. She was a beautiful woman, very volatile. She had 4 marriages. The last one finally was a happy one, which was the brother-in-law. A brother-in-law, actually, it was. So she wrote almost everything for piano. She didn't have a large output because she was a touring virtuoso, but she wrote everything she wrote for piano at an early age, 1-string quartet. So this is a piece called Fantasy Review in Prague. Now, besides being a brilliant pianist, she was an opera singer, even conducted and sang at the Met. And her music is extremely engaging and appealing because, first of all, it got the South American flair rhythmically to it, and a little bit of Vienna at the same time, and operatic melodic allure, and a lot of virtuosity. So, Teresa Carreño. 12 when she wrote that? Yes, she was. So now this is called Classics to Jazz, and as John said, you're going to hear some ragtime, you're going to hear some beautiful Broadway music, and I'm going to play two ragtime selections. One is by the great king of ragtime, Scott Joplin. Anybody who was in New York recently, as I was a wonderful play on Broadway that the critics, unfortunately, didn't care too much for, so it closed earlier than it should have. Did anybody see Tin Pan Alley Rag? The story of the hypothetical meeting between Irving Berlin and Scott Joplin. Really wonderful. Anyway, Scott Joplin, born in 1868 in Texas, the son of a freed slave. Family moved on to Missouri, and he died there in 1918. He studied classical music, but he wanted to write classical. That was what he loved to do. But he found that the ragtime was more successful. Unfortunately, he died in poverty and illness, and his family had broken up, so it was never to know the hit that his music made. If we all recall, in the 70s, the Sting, that was a very important point in having music of Scott Joplin played and appreciated. So what is ragtime? All right, ragtime is an early form of jazz at the turn of the century, 20th century, which was originally specifically for the piano. Now it ranges for anything. But it was a piano form, and it had frequently a bass that went like this. Ba, 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 and a rather jaunty melody which used syncopation. In other words, instead of having the accent or the stress on the strong beat, dum, 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 you had it off the beat. Bum, 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 bum. And how did the ragtime term come about? One story that I've heard, I don't know if it's true, it's plausible, but there may be other things, is that when people heard this music, the rhythm sounded ragged, and hence the term ragtime, possibly. So this is probably the most famous of the Scott Joplin, the Maple Leaf Rag. And by the way, I love to play this music. It's extremely sophisticated music, Scott Joplin's rags. had an interest in the field of women composers for many, many years, and played and given courses and recorded music of women. It was particularly the Romantic era, Clara Schumann, Fanny Mendelssohn, Teresa Carreño. So I was very, very interested and rather astonished to learn some years back that there were also women writing ragtime music. At one point around the turn of the century, at least 80. Many of them were centered around Indianapolis. There were other ones also, New York, Detroit, but Indianapolis for some reason. Anybody here from Indiana or Indianapolis? Okay, so why was I don't know. Now we associate ragtime with male, black, earthy music. These were white, middle class, upper middle class young women who were taking piano lessons. Every nice home had a parlor piano, you know, and they were studying classical. And their parents must have thought it was okay for them to play ragtime, I don't know. And some of them who were composing also were going to write ragtime. The leader of the Indianapolis group was named May Alstader, A-U-F-D-E-R-H-E-I-D-E. You know her? Okay, well, unless you have my recording, you don't. I'm wondering where you know her name. But okay, it was German descent, but she was American born, of course. And she was born in 1888 and died in 1972. Now, she wrote 16 rags. Of course, now when a young lady got married in those days, that was the end of any career she might have wanted to have. So she married her father was a prosperous businessman who actually even started his own firm to publish her rags and those of her friends. She married a prosperous businessman. They moved on to California. She had one child, and that was the end of any of her musical career. So what's sad about this is that, you know, sometimes the obituaries of these women won't even say that they had musical interest. This one is called the Thriller Rag. I like to say that, you know, when I play an encore and I maybe don't announce the piece, and I'll play this piece, or any of the rags by the female composer, somebody will say, gee, which Scott Joplin is that? And I say that makes me happy and it makes me sad. It makes me happy because it could be Scott Joplin, and it makes me sad because it could be Scott Joplin. So the Thriller Rag of May Alstader. Scott Joplin.
Yeah.
It does. And think about that date. Scott Joplin was born in 1868. She was born in 1888, so when did she start writing? You know, so obviously she was influenced by him. Who would it be? So before the last piece by Leonard Bernstein, I'd like to just reiterate what John said. Well, it's been a great pleasure, and I hope I'll have a chance to meet all of you. How many of you have been to anything that I've done here in Sarasota? Has anybody been to Sill or to Oslo? Oh, great. Oslo, Sill. Lunchtime. And I do a lot of teaching for the Longbow Key Education Society. Oh, speaking of which, if you pick up their catalog, I'm doing a number of courses there in January through March, and a concert and a workshop. So have a look at that. Also, I'd like to announce that, I don't know if any of you have been to these, but just like the lunchtime musicals here, we have a Palladium Theater in St. Petersburg, a wonderful series that we started last year called Lunchtime Musicals. They're on Tuesdays from 11:30 to 1. And I'm playing a light program called Bach to Broadway, Tuesday the 17th. There are a couple of flyers down here in the corner on this table. And it's only $10 if you're a senior, which nobody here is, so but it's going to be over like $12. And you can either bring your lunch, and we have, it's not in the Palladium itself, it's downstairs in the Stavros room, which is set up like a cabaret for 100 people. And you can bring your lunch, we serve coffee, or if you want to, you'll have coffee, and then there are some charming restaurants in downtown St. Petersburg. It's not that far, it's less than an hour in St. Petersburg. You can make an afternoon of it. The Fine Arts Museum is gorgeous, lots of things to do. So if you want to pick up a flyer, I also have my website indicated over there by my CDs with that poster. So I have 4 CDs. I'd be happy to sign any of them for yourself or a gift. It's coming up to Christmas, Hanukkah, Easter, whatever. You know, get ready. And one I have is called Women Composers Romantic to Ragtime. So Clara Schumann, Fanny Mendelssohn, Teresa Carreño, 4 ragtime women. Plus I wrote a little program booklet about the bios. Then I have one which is, maybe it's my favorite, Vienna to Broadway. I have waltzes from the Fledermaus and the other things that you want to have from Leah Mary Widow Waltz, and medleys of George Gershwin, Cole Porter, and some ragtime. And then I have one of all music by Gabriel Fauré. I had a great association with Fauré's family in Paris, and I played all of his works in New York, piano works. And then one very educational one, because I speak about the music as well as play, called the Poetic Piano. Everything from Bach, Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring, Beethoven, Chopin, Brahms, Clara Schumann. And you can have a look, pick up a flyer, pick up whatever you want there, and please come and say hello. So, Leonard Bernstein, was there ever a genius of this caliber? I don't think so. I love teaching Leonard Bernstein. I do a lot of classes about Leonard Bernstein and George Gershwin, the two of them. Leonard Bernstein was born in, let's see, I'll tell you in a minute, in Boston in 1918. He died way too soon in 1990. He went to all the greatest schools, as you know, and he made his great mark as a conductor, stepping in for Bruno Walter with the Philharmonic when Bruno Walter was ill. It was broadcast on the radio, nationwide, front page, New York Times, and he was on the map. I say to my classes, if he had only done one thing in music to the degree of excellence, which he did all things, he would be on the map. Classical composer, composer of musical theater, the legendary West Side Story. Jazz pianist, classical pianist, international conductor, Philharmonic pianist, Philharmonic, all that. Teacher par excellence. I use constantly the young people's concerts, those magnificent broadcasts. I have all of them, and whether I teach at Pace University with students or I teach in Eckerd College, Lifelong Learning, which is adults, retired adults, I use those all the time. I'm in awe of everything that he has to say. The Norton lecture, the Harvard lectures, great humanist, activist, all of the above. So he was really a force of nature. There will never be another Leonard Bernstein. So the great play in 1957, West Side Story, lyrics by Sondheim, won all the awards, and as you well know, it's playing on Broadway right now again, playing somewhere, lots of places at every moment of the day and night, I'm sure. And what I'm going to do is play a suite from West Side Story. So you know and love all these tunes. And of course, the sophistication of his writing and the sass of the New York, you know, he was born in New York, but he was as New York as Woody Allen in a way, you know. And the sass of New York is in there. love the most. It's Cole Porter. And I think, well, the other choice would be George Gershwin, not a bad choice either, but I just love the sophistication of Cole Porter. He was born, let's see if I have his face down here. Well, anyway, he was born in the Midwest. He's very sophisticated. You'd think he was born in New York, but he wasn't. He came from a very, very wealthy family. And he went to all the best schools, Yale, Harvard. I don't have his dates here, but we know that he died in, I think it was 1890 to 1964, something like that. Anyway, he went to all the best schools and studied in Europe. He was not taken seriously for a while. He was just thought to be a rich playboy, you know, dilly-dallying and dawdling in the artistic field. I like to call him his own Gilbert and Sullivan because he wrote the lyrics and the music quite amazingly, you know. And as I say, sophisticated, satirical, very, very high level, you know, and charm and elegance, I have to say. So if you just imagine Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, you'll have exactly what we're going to play tonight. Going back to the Viennese, and we'll go to Franz Lehar, the beautiful Dein ist mein ganzes Herz. From the Land of Smiles. now think of Placido Domingo. Which is not hard, is it?
UC Girling too.
UC Girling, and also Wunderlich, Fritz Wunderlich, or whatever his name was. Yeah. And how about the other one, Richard Tauber? That's the one, right. But anyway, in our day, this is one of the signature pieces of Placido Domingo.